All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another broadcast of Off Plantation Radio. So glad that you guys can join us this another wonderful evening of Wednesday, March the 8th, 2023. We're going to be starting here in just a moment. And tonight, family, we're going to jump right into it tonight. We're just going to jump right into it tonight. We got a lot to cover. We're just giving people just a little bit more time. And like I said, again, we're going to jump right in tonight. Typically, you know what I do, all the other intro stuff that we normally do. We're going to cut a lot of that out. And I'm so glad to see everybody in the house tonight. Grab you a seat, grab you something to eat, grab you something to drink. It's going to be quite interesting tonight. We're going to get into a little bit of history, some much needed history tonight. And that's really going to be the main focus of tonight's broadcast. We're not just broadcasting here, by the way, on YouTube, but we're also broadcasting over on mybondtube.com. I'll put that up on the screen there as soon as I can find it here. It's right there. There you go. So there you go. mybondtube.com, right there on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen there. That's where we're broadcasting live as well. And later on, we'll have this uploaded for you over there so that you can check it out. It's also simultaneously backed up over there on Odyssey. So you definitely want to check that out. All right, we're going to give people about another minute. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump in. All right, in the meantime, go ahead and enjoy some of this music here. And we'll be starting here momentarily. All right, we're back here. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for this special broadcast of Off Plantation Radio. Well, all the broadcasts I think are special in some way. But anyway, big shout out to everybody that's in the chat there, and appreciate y'all showing up. And thank you again, really appreciate it. And this entire broadcast will be here on YouTube. We'll leave it here. We'll leave this one on YouTube. Because I'm saying that because typically what happens is I'll do it and then for a couple of days or so, then I take it down. This one I'll leave up, probably until the next live that we do or whatever. And but yeah, this will be up. We will be, like I said, again, we're simultaneously broadcasting both here and over on mybondtube.com. So again, if if anything should happen during this stream on YouTube, we're still talking. We're just still talking over on mybondtube.com. So make sure you take note of that. It's on the screen. All right. So don't just tune out. Oh, I guess it's over now. No, if I'm mid sentence, it ain't over. It's not over. So make sure you make a note of that. Okay. All right. So tonight we're going to, I told my wife, I told Nicole, I said, I was really trying to get these things under an hour, about an hour. I just don't know, especially what we're going to be talking about tonight. I just don't know. I really don't know if that's even possible. But we're going to be getting into yet another very, I would say, a soul searching, very challenging history lesson tonight. And as you guys know, I really, really am a huge fan of history. I love history. It wasn't really, well, I guess that was the case in school. I'm trying to think now, was I really into history like that? I was either way about that because I went to a Christian school. So, a lot of what they taught was Christian history. And then when it came to, history about black folks, I don't remember getting that lesson at all. I don't. I don't remember hearing anything about Africa unless it was about a missionary trip and how poor they were. It's a shame, but it's just true. Like I said, again, going to a Christian school. Now, public school, some of y'all had some more options. We didn't. And but after I graduated, I did develop a love for just gaining deeper understanding of, just the world around me, which then I guess led to, looking at different history, learning about history on my own. I look at my son sometime and I see the Amazon truck just be coming by every now and then. And I'm like, oh, that's his books. I'm not used to that. I still don't get used to that, but he's just learning, he's any way you can. And that's the great thing about learning is that, there's a lot of learning out there that you can do. And some people say, well, that's just too much. Sometimes there is a such thing as learning too much. Yeah, to a degree, I do agree with that. To a certain extent, I agree with that. But typically when people say that, it's usually because they're being challenged in their own laziness. That's typically what that means when people say that kind of stuff. But no, it's learning should be a wonderful and pleasant experience. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes we choose the hard way, and we just some people just like that. We all go through that sometimes. Learning the hard way on some things. But that's not really a great way. But nonetheless, you can still look back and say, you know what? I learned something. I ain't going to go back to that again. Right. And that's kind of, and so those are the experiences we don't like. But the ones that but learning in of itself should be a very pleasant and wonderful experience. And it's something that should never stop. You should always be out here and just digging and digging and digging and digging. Just trying to get as much, info you can, because, if you're just getting it from a singular source, chances are, what you learn is probably inaccurate, whatever that may be. Someone said it must be cold on this side. Yeah, it kind of is. It kind of is. The wind is kicked up. We're in March, here in New Jersey. So what that means is we get a lot of wind. And I know in California too, in the southern in SoCal, I think it's this time of the year. I'm not sure. There's a lot of wind. This is like a windy month, and so between the wind and the wind and the cold, it just makes things a lot colder. But today was kind of nice though. Where'd my thing? Oh, okay. I gotta find out why this thing doing that. Anyway, so yeah, nice day today. Was able to get some more things accomplished. Man, I'm just a lot. As you guys have seen on this platform here on Journeyman, Journeywoman, I'm just pushing out content And that's not just, oh, I'm trying to get the numbers up. No, it's not that at all. It's just as I'm come across stuff, I want to get it out to y'all. That's it. Numbers come and numbers go, or whatever. But, my hope is that, okay, if people don't have, if this is the generation now that doesn't have long attention spans, okay, we'll make it short. Okay. So, and that's what we've been doing. So between that, I've been and also focused on our other businesses and just really, putting the pedal to the metal with that as well, giving more of my attention, even more of my attention to that as well. Just, as we're transitioning into the summer months. So, or the warmer months, I should say. And so just a lot of work on this end. And last night, man, it got to the point my head was hurting. I said, you know what? Let me stop here for a second. Let me go lay down for a little bit, and then I'll get back. I did that. Felt wonderful. So, yeah, I had to get that balance in. And then this morning got up, and the sun was out, and there was no chemtrails, at least for a time being, in the sky, which, so it was a beautiful blue sky. So I got out there and I did my grounding, went out there and put my feet on that ground. Yes, I did. And just got myself together and came back in. I said, okay, let's hit it. And that's what we're doing right now. So anyway, so tonight, so you guys know all the links and all of that. I have to go through all that tonight. Tonight, we're just going to get right into it. Tonight, we're going to talk about, as you see from the title here, that we are in a time right now where there is no room to make bad decisions. There's literally no room to make bad decisions, family. And as of late, if you can only imagine, the different between the messages, emails I get, interactions I have with people and all of that. And I'm just like, man, I just, for some individuals, it's like, man, I just wish they didn't have to learn that way. You know what I'm saying? I wish it was, the signs were there, and what's up, you should have listened to it, that kind of, and of course you don't tell them that, but hopefully you just hope that they get it the next time, And so, so tonight, I think where we're going to start, I'm going to give just a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. And, the first example, of course, is going to come from more of a historical one. And then we're going to move up into something that just recently happened in the news. And then because that's what we do here on Off Plantation Radio. We look at the news, but we're not just looking at individual news items, but how does it relate to us? I can sit up here and rattle all day through different headlines and all of that. But if there isn't something we can learn, if there's something we can learn from it, let's focus on that. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we're going to do. This thing is all going to connect, is all going to, it's going to be a much bigger lesson in all of this. So let's go ahead and get to it. So, I was, years ago, my mom, oh man, yeah, she had a whole library. Now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, she had her own library in the house, and it was a library in the house. She loved reading, and she still does. And one of the books that always grabbed my attention in the house was the book about Jonestown. It was called People's Temple, People's Tomb. And, of course, at that age, when I was younger, I just always went to the pictures. And then, but after a while, as I got a little bit older, and then I started reading it, and I was just like, wow, just really amazed. I was young enough I'm old enough to remember it being in front of Time magazine where, close to 1,000 people, basically committed suicide, in Guyana. And I remember seeing that in front of Time magazine. Like I said, again, I was young, but there's certain things I do remember. And so later on, as I got a little bit older, then I really started delving into just learning more about it. And I was just like, man, this is really something. And then later I come to find out most of the people who ended their lives were Black. And I didn't realize that. I didn't know that at the time. Again, I was a child, but I didn't realize that. But most of the people that that was part of that ministry were black folks. Specifically, a lot of them were older black women. And we're going to talk about that. And I'm pointing it out for a reason. Anyway, so we're going to talk about that just a moment, because I just remembered the first thing I wanted to share. Then we'll get into that, okay? Because I got some clips and stuff I want to show you as well. But I remember a while back, going back to, you guys who follow this platform, you've heard me talk about or mention, about that whole, Tariq Nasheed and the whole museum thing, the hidden, what is it? Whatever it is, the hidden history museum. And I was just telling people, I said, listen, you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful with this, keep your eyes and ears open, whatever. He's saying some good things, but, just keep your eyes and, and for some people, it's like, even in saying that, people get mad at you. They want to unsubscribe. They get, think, oh, you just a hater and all this other stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm just trying to warn you, because I'm seeing some things in here that just ain't adding up. It's just not adding up. Anyway, so fast forward, and y'all saw the post I did I guess it was last week, and it just was like, okay, because the museum is built now, right? Well, it was already built. And now, videos are now coming out on here on YouTube, just really exposing, this thing. And it's just layers and layers of this story. And it's just really something. So anyway, this whole museum thing, what it looks like is that, yes, what folks like me and others, had expected it, there's enough paperwork that shows that apparently he was pocketing some of his money. I mean, that's what it's all leading to. You know what I mean? Because because what he communicated to people in the beginning was, hey, listen, we're going to buy land outright. That was what was initially communicated to folks. Well, they didn't buy land outright. What ended up happening is he ended up getting a loan. He got a bank loan for this quote unquote museum, which is pretty much a lounge. I mean, when you look at it, because it's so small, and he got a loan. And the loan was for most of what the sale price was of this museum, which should lead to the next question. Okay, well, what about all that cash that was given to him? It didn't go to that. That's for sure. It didn't go to that. So anyway, and then when they start getting into the contents of the actual museum, we began to see, I mean, I'm not making any of this up. Like I said, again, this is all on YouTube. You can look this up on your own. I mean, he literally was going on Etsy and ordering little, figurines and stuff like that and putting it up there. Then he had something look like a magazine rack, of stuff. And it was like, this is all hidden history. And it was like, there's nothing hidden by any of this stuff. I mean, he had a picture of Michael Jackson on the wall. I mean, a lot of the stuff that was that was on the wall was all stuff that you can find just by going online and look it up yourself. It was literally nothing at all hidden about any of this stuff. And so now all this stuff is just coming out. I'm not going to go, because there's some brothers out here that have can do a much better job than I can going through all the details. I'm just giving you kind of the overview, for this. So even with all of that, you still have folks out here who are like, they don't want to hear it. You're the enemy for even bringing this up. You're a hater, you're jealous, or whatever it may be. And it's like, no, it's none of that at all. I was trying to warn you, don't dump your money into this. There's a lot of other things you can be investing for yourself, but don't do this. You know what I mean? And now that the truth has come out, there's a lot of people now that's getting silent. They're silent now. But then there's a significant number that are still like, we're in this to the end, and that's it, fully committed to this. But it's like, committed to what? You don't, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's being revealed what this thing really is all about. And now it's at a point, because of the fact that, this stuff is being exposed. Being Tariq Nasheed, now he has to actually have what I would say is just pretty much rent parties every month. So now he has to have, he's going to have, you know, he was saying he's going to have his birthday party there, and they're going to have another mixer next, you know, this month. And then they're going to have a poetry slam and all this stuff they're going to have every month. And that's so he can make up the rent. And someone did the numbers, and it was like the rent on a building like that was at the tune of like 10, 11,000 a month. And so this is something that folks are just taking it all in, and they're not realizing, bro, you've been scammed. You don't realize this. But like I said, again, if you bring it up to folks, they don't want to hear it, you know, so it is what it is. But, you know, we're going to, you know, I'm thankful that you have people out here that are willing to tell the truth, you know, because, you know, we love our people. You know, we don't want to see our people going through some of this mess out here, even when it's at the hands of our own people. You know, we got to be able to call this stuff out for what it is. And so I saw that, and it was just like, man, that's something. So seeing all of that, because I have been really following this in the last, I guess in the last couple of weeks, I've been really watching this thing unfold. And just amazed at, you know, how people are still trying to defend it. And I'm like, you just can't. And then recently what just happened was there's this guy by the name of Professor Small. And he's an older gentleman. And some of y'all may be familiar with his work. I have to be honest with you. I'm not that familiar with his work. You know, I've heard of him in passing, but he's not someone that I would say that I've tracked or followed or anything or listened to or whatever. But I just know he's an older gentleman that is a professor. I don't know his resume or anything like that to even verify that, but we'll just say he's a professor. And he just recently, he was on one channel basically condemning some of the vitriol and stuff that was coming from the FBA / you know, Tariq Nasheed and all that when it comes to how they depict and describe, you know, our brothers and sisters that are in the diaspora, people in the Caribbean, Central South America, or in Africa for that matter, and describing them as tethers and using some of the same terminology that white supremacists used only just a few years ago. Now these same people, black folks now have picked up that same terminology and are now using it towards your own people. You know what I'm saying? And so this Professor Smalls was calling Tariq out on this. It was on a different platform. And so I was like, okay, that's cool, whatever. And that was that. Then I just recently saw him on Tariq Nasheed's platform where he was just lapping all of this praise on Tariq, saying, I don't know why these people are attacking you, and I don't understand why this. And I'm sitting up, I was like, wait a minute. Well, I just heard you, brother, on another platform saying all this, what he was saying was wrong. Now you're saying it's you defending it, you know? And so it was just, so seeing this, when I start seeing it, I was like, oh. And immediately in my mind, what came into my mind was just, it served as a reminder of just because someone is old, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are an elder. Let me say that again. Just because someone is older, it doesn't mean that they are an elder or they're wiser. You've heard the phrase, you know, I'm older and wiser now. You got some folks out here that are just old. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're wiser. They're just old. And they do things for whatever reason, you know, and then come to find out later on, I was listening to this one brother, and he was talking about this Professor Smalls. He's a Mason. He's a Freemason. And so, and that in of itself made a whole lot of sense. And what a lot of people don't realize, listen, and I know I got some people, you know, Hebrews in the house tonight, you know, you think that the Freemasons are just in the black church. Well, I'm here to tell you, they're not just in the black church. You got some Freemasons that are also Hebrews as well, that are in this thing for real, you know, and you better wise up very quickly. And because it's true, you got some folks here that are Freemasons, Eastern Stars, that are in all these different organizations. And yes, they claim to be Hebrew. I'm telling you, the infiltration in the black community is very real. And what a lot of these people want to do is get you focused on white people, get you focused on people that don't look like you. But I've been saying on this platform from jump, some of your biggest enemies are going to be people that look like you, sound like you, the whole nine. So you best have your eyes wide open. You best have your spirit better be clear and sharp, because this is very real. Okay. And that's, So seeing how this thing has really been unfolding has been just really something. And it's been sad at the same time, because it's literally like watching a slow moving train wreck. You know what I'm saying? You spend a lot of time and energy trying to warn people on certain things, and then you turn up being the biggest enemy. And so you get tired of it. You know what I'm saying? I know I do. So anyway, so that was that. But anyway, transitioning here, now we can get into, so that whole thing reminded me of just how many of our people are so gullible. And I guess the first question to ask is why? Why does it seem like many of our people are so gullible to these tactics, just amongst our people? Well, I mean, the thing on the top of the list, it comes down to, just what slavery has done to us. I mean, that's really on the top of the list. And then you fast forward from slavery, and then you had the rise of the civil rights movement, where you had MLK march our people to the steps of an altar in Washington, D.C. to make a covenant with Zeus. And we've talked about this many, many times on this platform. Yes, the Lincoln Memorial was a memorial that was fashioned after the Temple of Zeus. You can even go to it right now and you can see it for yourself. It measured the measurements, the signage, everything. It was measured after Zeus. So the people of this land are all about their gods. And so Martin Luther King, standing on the steps of the Temple of Zeus, had all these black people. He made a covenant between two gods. The first god was the god of this, Zeus, which was Lincoln, right? And then facing who he was facing on that reflective pond, that whatever they call the lake of reflection or whatever it is. If you look at the Capitol building, at the very top of the building, there's another statue. That statue is the goddess Columbia, okay? And so here you have all of these different gods and goddesses all around, where Martin Luther King was pleading with these gods and goddesses of this land to give us civil rights. And that's exactly what happened. We did get civil rights, didn't we? But what we didn't realize was that the civil rights was going to include white women. We didn't realize that it was going to include homosexuals, lesbians, and now transvestites. That was all included. And I played you a clip of Coretta Scott King, who lit all of that and said, yes, that's right. This is why my husband marched. He marched not just for black folks, but he was also marching for the LGBT people as well. So you got exactly what you wanted, Black America. You got civil rights, and those civil rights included all of those things and then some. And now they're bringing in the people from Ukraine. They're bringing in all these other folks as well. You got exactly what you asked for, period. And so, so we got to talk about this stuff. We got to talk about it, and and right now we're in an era right now where if you really want to discover and know who you are as an individual, it's not going to come through documentaries. I'm going to say it one more time. If you want to know I'll put my finger on the camera. If you want to know who you are, it is not going to come via documentaries. So right now, we're in an age right now where it's a learning age, but it's also in an age of unlearning. And there's a lot of unlearning we have to do. There's a whole lot of unlearning we have to do. Think of it as like peeling an onion. There's layers of things that we got to take off. And some of those layers, they hurt. It's painful when you're taking those layers off. But we got to do it. We have to do it in order to get to exactly what this thing is and what we all about, and discover who we are as a people. So anyway, so tonight we're going to get into, so let's talk about, now that we talked about that and you kind of know where the conversation is going to go. I want to talk a little bit, man, I could do a whole video on this. Very interesting topic. And this is the whole topic about the Jonestown and all of that. I've done videos on this before talking about Jonestown, but when I tell you there are layers to that story, There are layers. There are multiple layers to this story. And I wanted to share it because of the fact I do understand that, believe it or not, there are many people out here who aren't familiar with that story. You will be surprised. There's a lot of people, when they think of Jim Jones and when they think of Jonestown, oh, that was just an extreme case. Oh, that's just extreme. There's no way I wouldn't fall for that. No way. Absolutely not. Yeah, he was a Looney Tune. Yeah, he was later in his life. But what I want to play for you now, let me get it queued up here. I want to play for you an audio. Okay, I'm gonna play for you an audio. Giving it's like a sermon / speech here. And let me see here. Open a new tab. Okay. Turn that down. Hold on. I want you to listen just to a little bit. It's 10 minutes long, but I'm not going to play the whole 10 minutes. But I want you to get an idea, just get a little idea, just a taste of what this man was sounding like in his earlier days. All right. Jim Jones, for those who don't know, yes, he was a pastor. He was a cult leader. In this day and time now, that's one and the same. But he was a pastor. He started off as a pastor, small-time pastor. But his specialty or his focus was black folks. He targeted black folks. Jim Jones was, in fact, a part of the CIA. He was an asset of the CIA. I told you there are multiple levels to this story, multiple. You can do a whole week of videos on this. And there's a whole lot of lessons that we can learn from this. But he was definitely an asset of the CIA. He was also he was trained by I think he was Jesuit trained, if I'm not mistaken. He went to a Jesuit college or something like that. And then I told you all about that. How did the CIA begin? It began from the Jesuits, and it began via the how was it? Because I did a video on this. We talked about how, you know, how the Catholic Church all over the world has their confessional booths. Well, those confessional booths were used. That was like during the wars, World War I, World War II, and all of that. Those confessional booths were key in the Allies passing information to each other. And so they were going to bless me, Father, for how I have sinned. He'd be like, okay, here's the map to so-and-so. You know what I'm saying? They would pass on information like that. And also the priests were passing along information. They've been doing this for thousands of years. You know, hundreds and hundreds of years they were doing this stuff. The Roman Catholic Church was doing this stuff. Well, fast forward, the birth of the CIA, it started off like that. It started off with people that were Jesuit trained. All of this is true, family. All of this has been historically proven. I'm just, you're going to have to look this stuff up yourself. But I've already put all this stuff out here in the past. So it's now up to you look this stuff up. But that's what if you notice, a lot of the heads of the CIA, they all came out of Jesuit schools. Many of them did. So the birth of the CIA, and they will tell you, when you look at the history of it, they learned from what the Roman Catholic Church was doing. And that was, just having this whole network of spies and confessional booths and all that other stuff, right? Well, anyway, Jim Jones came out of that. Jim Jones, he was trained by the CIA. And the CIA at that time was doing a lot of social experiments. And man, oh man, there's a whole lot I can tell you right now. There's this movie that's out. I'm not going to get off track tonight. There's this movie out. It's called The Jesus Revolution. I'm probably going to eventually do a video on that because I haven't seen it yet, but I am going to see it. But I am extremely familiar with the story about Lonnie Frisbee. Lonnie Frisbee, he was a charismatic leader, during that time out in Southern California. This was like in the 70s. Where it was like the psychedelic kind of movement, right? And then you had what was called the Jesus movement, right? And out of this gave birth to the charismatic movement in Southern California, but it went off the rails. It's the whole nine and all of that. Well, I was telling my wife, and I'm still debating whether or not if I'm going to, because I would love to do a video like this. But like I said, again, I don't know what people's attention span is, but it's a lot of information, because my perspective on it is that I actually was, I was part of ministries that were head by people who were part of that movement. And I was able to sit down with these people, and they were passing on a whole lot of information on what went down and all that other stuff. So I was able to piece things together, and I'm just sitting up there like, wow, okay, I didn't know any of this stuff. But it's some things, like if I'm exposed, it's like some things I just remember, I'll never forget it. And my experience just being around these different leaders and all that came out of that Jesus movement, that was in Southern California, but also on the East Coast as well. I was, when my family, when we first became Christians, the church that we was part of as well, they were out of that movement as well. So I was able to see it on both sides, and the impact that had on this nation, the impact it had on the black church and all of that. Like I said, again, we can spend a whole lot of time on that, because it's important for people to see and understand just how the waves of Christianity and the different, because I can explain it from the white side and the black side, because I've been part of both. And it's really, really interesting. Someone said, please do. I might do it. But anyway, in that time period, this was post MLK, post Malcolm X. Now you're in the 70s. And so in the 70s right now, it was very, it was just the drug and sexual revolution and all this stuff going on, right? It's a whole lot of stuff. The young people at that time were really it was an age of quote unquote self-discovery. But also during this time, it was also a heavy age of government experimentation. When you look at, for example, Woodstock, a lot of the performers in Woodstock, if you study and you look at a lot of the performers that performed in Woodstock, or even during that time, a majority of those individuals, their parents were part of the intelligence community. I'm telling you right now, this ain't me making it up. I ain't just saying this. You got Janis Joplin. You can go down the whole list. A lot of these people, their parents were out of the intelligence community. And so you had things such as experimentation in lyrics. You had experimentation when it came to music tones. And you also had experimentation going on with drugs. There was some cases where the CIA was actually passing out psychedelic drugs right at the concerts. And as they were passing out these drugs, they were sitting back and taking notes. This is all on record, family. This is literally all on record. Different things. And then once things got out of hand, then they backed off, and then they were like, oh, we ain't got nothing to do with that. No, we ain't got nothing to do with that one. You know what I'm saying? But but later on it comes out that yes, they were all up in that stuff. So you had a lot of stuff going on there. That's in the Woodstock hippie world, right? Then when you get into the Christian or the church world, you had the charismatic movement that was going on during that time. And so, and then some of the highlighters of that time was people like Catherine Kuhlman, who was also an agent of Rome. She was also an agent of Rome. She was going around, doing the whole I'm moving by the Spirit and doing all, she was doing all these kind of weird things and all. It was an older, frail woman. You can look her up again. Her name was Catherine Kuhlman. Now she, like I said again, reason why I say she was an agent of Rome, if you look her up, do a Google image search of Catherine Kuhlman and the Pope. There's an image of her wearing all black clothes and kissing the ring of the Pope. But this is why I say Christianity and Rome are all the same thing. The Pope is your daddy. If you're listening to me right now, I'm telling you, Christianity and Rome or Catholicism is one and the same. You got some Christians out there that will strongly disagree with me on that, but all you got to do is ask them, who did your Bible? Who put your Bible together? It was Rome. It was Rome that put it together. The what you call it, the 95 Theses and what Martin Luther did, that was after the fact. The Bible came before that. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, Catherine Kuhlman, You had Captain Kuhlman. There was a lot of other crusades and stuff that was going on during that time as well. But anyway, with all of that going on, with all that, and then we can talk about what was going on in the black churches and all of that too, because there was some things that was going on there as well. That's another conversation. But with all of that going on, you had this character, Jim Jones. He rose up in the midst of all of that. And so black folks were, we were still in the age of feeling kind of disoriented. You know what I mean? We were feeling very disoriented during this time because we lost two of our leaders and other leaders as well, and what do we do now? We don't, you had black folks who didn't want to get into the drug culture. You had black folks who didn't want to get into the sexual revolution. You had black folks who just wanted to live right, and live according to the Bible, right? And so this is the vacuum that Jim Jones came in, and he started off addressing the needs of black folks. And when you listen to him, he sounds just like a black preacher. And when he first started off, he sounded like he had a whole lot of sense. I mean, he was speaking truth to power and everything, and, addressing a lot of the needs. He wasn't just a man that was just talking about how bad the world is and how black folks, we need to do better to black folks and all this stuff. But he was about it. He was all about it. One of the things he was doing was when it comes to foster children, black foster children, he was making sure that foster children in the community were taken care of. He was making sure that black elders were taken care of as well in the community, to the point where he built facilities to take care of the black elders in the community. If you were poor, you had a place where you can get food. You had a place you can get shelter. He was in the envy of a lot of politicians, because when this man showed up, it wasn't just him. You had hundreds of people that showed up with him, right? And but you want to talk about the groundwork of revitalization, within the black community. This man was doing it. But if you keep following the story out, then you'll see where he went off. See, that's where a lot of people want to focus just on that. They want to focus on his latter days where he was just plumb loco. But he didn't start off like that. And I want you to listen to just some of his rhetoric and the things that he was saying. I guarantee you, for some of y'all, you listen to him, if you didn't know this information, the first thing you'll be asking, who's this guy and where's his church? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, let's go ahead and play. This is a message he gave. I'm trying to see if it gives any additional information on where this was. Here we go. No, it doesn't. It doesn't tell me. Anyway, so just take a listen here to his sermon here, okay?
It's good to know one another in the apostolic faith.
Hold on.
As you may see, the only sanctuary there is in these uncertain times is with people who love God, and God is principle. It is written, God is love, and love then must be God. It said, whosoever loveth is born of God and knoweth God. But this nation is indeed a sick nation, perishing by the moment. I'm the chairman of the San Francisco Housing Authority, chairman of the Commission on Housing. Just come back from Washington. If anything would make you depressed, if anything would give you the heavy heart that Jesus had on his way to Golgotha, if you can know a little bit about it, because he said we had to go through the things that he went through. He said we had to be made perfect even as he was perfect. He learned perfection. He was made perfect through suffering. And he said, when I go away, these things shall you do, but greater. Greater suffering, greater miracles, everything greater. That's what he said. Not only the same things shall you do, but the same things and greater. When they took him away, he said, for what good work do you take me away? They said, for no good work, but because you being a man, make yourself God. He said, it's written, oh, generation, foolish generation, it's written, ye all are gods. And 2,000 years later, we're still struggling with what Jesus tried to reveal to people's hearts. Today, having met with the leaders of this country, And in a short time, we'll be meeting with the sister of President Carter, because his wife asked me to meet. I dined with Mrs. Carter a few weeks ago and got to know a little bit about her as an individual. Enough to know this, that no matter what her intentions, they don't know how to cope with the problems that we are faced with in our land today. And such misery as they feel, that you don't ever hear that the sister, Mrs. Stapleton, you know, you read about her and her concern about healing matters, that the wife of the president said, go out and see Reverend Jim Jones, because he has the answer. And I thought, yes, we have an answer. But if people will listen, we have an answer. Most people are not prepared to listen. So it's doubtful whether you're going to have anybody respond, because they won't listen to the answer. I had an hour and a half with her. I dined with her not because I'm anything, because we have a lot of people. We have a lot of people because we take care of our people. And that's the commandment. It said, bear one another's burdens. It said, minister to the necessities of all the saints or all the believers. It said, take care first of the household of the faith. So in our church there are all of these wonderful ministries. The ministries, beautiful convalescent homes and beautiful children's homes. And lovely, lovely centers for our aged, and legal services free, and free medical clinic, and free physical therapy where we have jacuzzi baths and ultrasonic treatment. To not only do we depend upon faith, and faith does things in our temple I've never seen in my life, because I've never known a people that can live to the degree that we are able to say that we've never had one die in our assemblies that have not been raised from the dead. I've never known such a testimony, not in any time or any hour, except that which I read about in former days. I have never been in a place where nobody can die in the presence of the living God. So there is no question about faith. But faith without works is dead. Faith that doesn't work is dead, and faith without works is dead. So you have to indeed put some legs on all of your faith and all of your prayers and all of your meditations and all of your worship. There have to be legs on those prayers. And we have those legs to a degree. We have beautiful children's homes on the most lovely acreage that you'll ever see in America, in California. And the most beautiful, as I said, physical therapy, equipment and facilities and medical facilities. And we feed our people, and we live together as they did on the day of Pentecost. If you don't have any income in our church, or if you have too little income, we have 70 different homes in which we all live as it was on the day of Pentecost. We all share and have all things common. If somebody only has $50 and somebody else makes $400, we share and we all eat as they did and was revealed in the church on the apostolic day. I'm talking about big apartment buildings. Big homes, not just 70 little houses. I'm talking about a great senior citizen complex of 33 apartments, just to name one. Say, what does it mean to have all things common? It means you don't have to worry anymore. It means when all people are one family, as they were when the church was conceived and was in inception on the day of Pentecost, when you are together as one, you don't have to worry anymore. You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry no more. Because when God, and God is a principle, God is love, and love cannot be something you just feel on Tuesday night or Monday night in a shouting meeting. It's not something you feel when you clap your hands and dance, but love is a principle. It works like it does in a family. You couldn't know love in a family if the father of the family or the mother of the family had a nicer bedroom than the children and had more to eat than the children. But if it's truly love, then everyone in that house, they all hold everything in common. You don't say in your house that it's your living room. You say it's our living room. Praise his name. Praise his.
I'll go ahead and stop it there. But yeah, we can, I mean, as you just heard, I mean, that would hype up any black church. You know what I'm saying? Room full of black folks, for real. That'll hype up anybody. I mean, just when you listen to what he's saying, and it's not that he's just saying it. It was was actually taking place. It was what was actually transpiring. I'm going to actually play, and I'll just go ahead and say, I'm gonna play clips of this documentary. I'll go ahead and say the fair use thing. I don't know if that's like supposed to do something, but this is from an older documentary, and we're just gonna skip through some of the clips. What I'll probably do tomorrow is I'll play it in its entirety. I'll just stream it over on my BondTube, and then maybe I'll do a couple of these documentaries, because you have a couple of a few you have very good documentaries that are out there. And when I tell you, there's a lot of layers to that story. One of the video that we did on it, we talked about how in Guyana, this is down in South America, a lot of people have put a lot of attention on Jonestown. But what a lot of people don't realize was not too far from Guyana was another Jonestown that was set up. And guess who was leading that one? It was a man out of Ohio, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember the name right now. He was calling all Hebrews, because he said he was a Hebrew. He said black people are the real Israelites. We're the real Hebrews. And he was calling black folks to come down to this place down in South America. It was another place. Guyana was a hotbed for all these CIA operations. That's why they were doing it. That's why he went to Guyana, so that it can be off the radar, so nobody could, check it out. The only reason why this second Jonestown didn't pop off was because of what happened in Jonestown. What happened in Jonestown, when that congressman, when he got shot, when all that gunfire took place, I'm talking about what happened in Jonestown. The CIA had to rip everything up. They had to expedite everything. This guy that was setting up another Jonestown not too far from where Jonestown was located, he was also a part of this. He had gotten arrested for some heinous crime, something he should have been put away for a long time. But for whatever reason, he was given freedom to travel in and out the country. Yeah, he was an agent. And he was calling folks, Hebrews, to come out of America, because America is Babylon. I documented, I told y'all all of this. The same rhetoric that you're hearing today. We got to leave America and we got to get out of here. We already got some land out here, and come to find out this dude was also CIA. All right. So anyway, like I said again, there's a lot of layers to this story. So anyway, so that's it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play clips of this documentary that I came across. Fair use, right? And hopefully it'll be fine. But it's an older one. I don't see why they would have any problems with it, because it's old. I mean, it's whatever, and this is his history. So let me see if I can get to. I'm gonna go ahead and cue this thing up here, and I think I already have it queued up to the first clip I want to play for you. Okay, so what we're gonna look at now, they didn't just go to. Prior to them going to Guyana, or, to set up Jonestown, they went to a small town. I believe this is in central or northern California. But they'll tell you the name's going to come up here in a moment, where they set up a community there. That was a trial run community. All right. So we're going to watch a little bit of this first clip, and then I'm going to skip to some other clips in this documentary. Okay. So let me bring this up here. All right. And like I said, it's all going to tie together at the end, and while I'm talking about this. Okay, Ukiah. This is Ukiah, California.
The move to California was really fun. There were about 12, 15 cars driving across the United States and making that journey to a place none of us knew, none of us could even imagine. We were going to California, our new world.
When I saw Redwood Valley, I couldn't believe my eyes, because it was like a paradise. It was rural, it was green, there were grapevines everywhere, and I fell in love. I said, this has got to be a perfect way to live.
Started with about 141 people, and from that we've grown to a very thriving congregation. We have about every level of society, all socioeconomic income strata, from professional down to the ordinary field worker, field labor. Really, it's beautiful to see that all these divisions have been broken down, not only race, but any differences of economic position.
The focus of Jim's message was taken from the Bible, where Jesus, in his earliest days, told people to sell all things and have all things in common.
Jesus Christ had the most revolutionary teachings to be said, in the sense that he said to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, take in the stranger, minister to those, the widows and afflicted in their suffering. And we feel that no one really tried Christianity too effectively, or the Judeo-Christian tradition.
The membership increased substantially as he procured more and more Greyhound buses and fixed them up. And every summer he began this cross-country tour.
The purpose of the bus trips was to spread Jim's beliefs about socialism and the world and how we can live a better life and about an integrated lifestyle. But behind that, I think it was to gather more members for the temple.
I decided not to go to Vietnam, and I was just at the point of what am I going to do with myself. I heard Jim Jones was going to be coming to Philadelphia and coming to Benjamin Franklin High School. And I went Wednesday night and I listened to him, and I was impressed by how it was such an interracial group and people were really happy.
You got nothing to lose. Who else is going to stand, look you in the face and say, come and I'll give you a job. Come and I'll give you a home. Come and I'll give you a bed. So I got nothing but a pension. Don't leave your pension behind. Who else will tell you that? Who'll tell you I'll put you on that bus tomorrow?
I heard Jim Jones talking about equality among races, what it's like in living in California, in the Redwood Valley, the good works that they're doing, things that I wanted to get involved with but didn't even know where to make an entree. And all of a sudden the answer was there.
Somebody is going to get on the Freedom Train in Philadelphia.
He was there for 3 evenings, and the third evening I went off in the bus and came to California.
Surely, he's able to carry.
When I joined People's Temple in the spring of 1960.
Okay, I'll stop there. All right. So as you saw, he's in California. He set up camp there, and he's bringing up. And you took note immediately of the demographics that he was going after, right? What did you see? I saw mostly black women. Okay. Now, do you guys remember the video that we did where we talked about the birth of the Hebrew Israelites in this country? Remember, we talked about that. Just a quick review. We talked about the founder of it. This was back in the late 1800s. Prior to that, our people in this country were not even talking about describing themselves as Hebrews. And this is all historical fact. This is why I keep telling people, you got to check your history. Okay. At the most, our people would compare ourselves to the Hebrews in the Bible, but we never went. There's nothing on record that we can point to say that we always called ourselves Hebrews. That's not true. There's no record of that. We compared ourselves to that, but we never was going around talking shalom and mishpachah or anything like that. There's no record of that. That only began in the late 1800s it was Harlem is where it really took off, but the early beginnings of it was like Indiana, not Chicago, but it was like Indiana, Illinois, somewhere. I like I said, again, it's all in the video. I put all the receipts out there, but Harlem is in New York is where it really took off. And so anyway, what was I saying? Oh, and so anyway, it talked about how this bishop who started this thing, talking about the Hebrew Israelite movement, I mean, he was saying some really crazy things. Again, they have all of this on record. And one of the things he was claiming was that he disappeared. He said, did y'all see? I was up here talking and I just disappeared. You didn't see that, did you? Because, see, you ain't at my level and all of this stuff, right? And his old sidekick or whatever, his old flunky guy was like, I saw it, Pastor. I saw it. And then they said the crowd of mostly women were just cheered in, and they just started praising the Lord and just saying, oh, we saw a miracle today. We just saw a miracle. And that is what helped jettison that whole entire movement. All right. So anyway, but here we go again with all of with movements like this in the church. They mainly target black women, specifically middle to older age black women. All right. Black men are in it too now. Don't think that the men get off scot-free on this one. But I'm telling you, pay attention to the demographics, and then pay attention to the demographics that you see in these movements today. All right. It is not by coincidence. It is all by design. All right. All right. So let me move up to 3204. And this one is about, okay, this is when Jim Jones, he did a trial run for what happened during the, what ultimately happened down in, down in Jonestown.
This vulcanizer stuff.
We were celebrating New Year's Eve. There were about 120 people.
Jim started talking about our cause, and he said, this punch is going to be passed out to everybody here. We all drank our punch, and then, he said, you just drank poison. And we will all die right here in the church together as one. The women were just screaming, oh no, my baby, my baby. And others just sat there. And all of a sudden, Jim says, that wasn't poison you drank.
Jim said that this was a test of loyalty. He just wanted to see if we were truly committed to our cause, and that was how we would show it.
Well, it wasn't about our loyalty, because we were demonstrating loyalty all the time. Coming there, being there in the meetings, sitting, listening, supporting, working. And I thought it had a lot more to do with Jim's sense of rehearsal. Did he feel like he was potent and omnipotent enough to really get people to kill themselves when he said so? And that frightened the hell out of me.
Okay, now let me go up to, 40, 30, 56. Okay, so let me go here. Now, this one you're going to see now, you're going to see just how he, you're going to listen to this testimony. This is for a black man there. Let's see, 40, 56. All right, I'll just start there.
I was slapped once also in a public meeting.
People were brought up front and asked to, they had to tell who they'd slept with and who they had sneaked off to a restaurant with.
It wasn't a week that went by that I wasn't called up on the floor because of my behavior, because of my attitude. Stanley Clayton, up front center.
He would ask people,
see that?
What do you think we ought to do with them? You think I ought to get a good boxing? And then you'd get a resounding roar. Yes.
You might fight 5 people in one night. Well, you're very tired. I've seen situations where they actually knocked the person out and actually took water and threw the water back on, woke him up and woke him some more.
I had welts really bad, and when I went to work the next day, one of my employees noticed the welts when I sat down, and I just broke down and told her. She didn't even know I was People's Temple. And she called the manager of the station up, and they talked to me about leaving. I couldn't say goodbye to my son and my husband, because at that point it was like the Gestapo. The families were turning in each other. If I had said goodbye, one of them would have reported me.
It's kind of like when you get married and you have this ideal and you're in love, and then, the honeymoon wears off and reality sets in. And most people, once the going gets rough, don't jump out immediately.
And so, as you can see here, here this black man was just sitting up here. They say, I guess he said he was always getting in trouble. And then he would say, well, what should we do or whatever, and then the crowd jumps in and suggests some kind of punishment for him. This is like a plantation. Wait a minute, this is in the 70s. This ain't in the 1870s. This ain't in the 1770s. This is like in 1970s. This was going on. It's Christianity. It ain't my Christianity. I don't do that in my church or whatever. But there are some elements in this whole story that you still find in a lot of churches, a lot of ministries, and a lot of some of these other sects, if you will, that are out here as well. All right. Let me go to 5102. All right. So now they're going to show, this is down in Jonestown, all right, in Guyana, and they're showing them, they were building down there and all this stuff. This was a whole huge operation that they had going on down there. And I'm going to get into some stuff here in a moment, but I want you to pay attention to this interview. It's a very quick interview of a elderly black couple.
What do you think about your friends back down in the state? Do you think they should be here?
Well,
do you want to share with them this morning? Speak up.
I wished I could.
Well, can you do
share
it?
with them?
Would you do it?
They won't listen to me.
They won't listen to you, huh?
When you don't have anything, you own Jonestown. You are part of Jonestown. You were a shareholder at Jonestown if you were African American. It gave them the opportunity to really be a part of creating a utopia.
Tell me why, tell me why, tell me why. Why can't we live together? Tell me why, tell me why.
Okay. And then the last one is 5359. You saw those black women down there? That ain't just from the yesteryear. That's you see this stuff still going on today, family. All right, let me click here. This will be the last clip from this documentary.
It was very, very dark. It was almost like a dark cloud.
In Jonestown, there was a speaker system, and only Jim spoke on it. And it went 24 hours a day, and he would tape himself. So in the middle of the night, all through the night, his voice was talking to you.
The United States is calling for the removal of all blacks and Indians, so is England, and want to have their immigrant black Indian population removed in 6 months.
We had no other radio or TV or communication with parents or any kind of, update that could show us really that there's a whole other thing going on besides what Jim was interpreting for us.
I make my stand clear. Give us our liberty or give us our death.
No matter where you were, you could hear. You could hear it in your bunk at night. You could hear it when you're in the outhouse. You could hear it when you were working in the field. You could hear it all the time.
At least on those terms, we choose our death, and no one chooses it for us. Don't try to take any of our children.
There was this pervasive sense of being under attack in Jonestown. He told them that things were just getting worse in the United States. They couldn't go back home. And not only that, but these forces were traveling to Guyana to destroy them there.
You can't know how much conspiracy there is in the U.S. Maybe it's economic.
Family, you see the same tone that's happening today. The same tone. Okay, just different. I'm telling you, stick around long enough, you hear this. Number one, what is the pullout that you can get from just this clip that I just showed you just now? You notice that he had to isolate the people. Number one, he had to isolate them. He had to get them separated from their families. He had to create a sense of urgency. Don't think, just move. Get out of the U.S. You got to leave. You got to separate yourself from the United States. You got to separate yourself from your family. Don't listen to them. They're already deceived. They're already lost. They already took the vaccine. It's too late now. You can't listen to them. They ain't got no good sense. We got the answer. And you see that happening right now today. I just heard recently someone, one movement, they trying to separate people, and they're doing the same stuff that Jim Jones is doing right now. Want to travel the country and try to gather people to come to their spot because they believe they got the answer, that the Most High is only resting where they are. Nowhere else in the world, but he's resting where they are. This is stuff that's going on amongst our people all the time, family. And this is why I'm taking the time to explain this. All the time. This kind of stuff goes on all the time. And maybe some of y'all listening to me right now, you may be part of something like this. If you are part of something and they are telling you that you need to separate yourself from your family, you better get the hell away from those people. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it. You need to get the hell away from that. Get away from that. Anybody that wants to cause separation between you and your family, you better get away from that mess. You better get away from it. I'm showing you the blueprint that these people have worked very hard on doing for years and years and years. They were very committed to this. These people were very committed to this, and they carried it all the way out to the end. But I'm telling you, there's some movements out here right now where they're trying. That's what they're telling people. You just don't think about it. You just need to leave right now. You need to just go. And you don't realize that some of these people that you're listening to out here, they also are working for the agency. Do you understand what I'm saying? I say, you can look at me. You understand what I'm saying? I don't want nothing from you. I don't want a doggone thing from y'all. I don't want a doggone thing. I will show my face. I will show you what I look like. You can see my beautiful wife. You understand what I'm saying? We ain't gonna tell you everything. I mean, nobody should do that anyway. But my point is, some of y'all be listening to folks out here. You don't even know where these people are from. You don't know what they're about. You never seen them, and you're making life decisions on stuff. And your only familiarity with these people is in the chat. The day you hear me telling y'all you need to move and you need to come live with us because we just bought a bunch of land, you better go as far away the other way as possible. Because I was sitting here thinking, I was talking to my wife. I said, now what would be a scenario where I would say something like that? I couldn't think of any. The only one I could think of, I said that the Most High himself showed up in my house and told me to do that. Other than that, I ain't doing that. No way. No way, no way. I ain't doing that. And you should never listen to anybody that's telling you to relocate and come live with us or you need to separate yourself. You better not do that. I'm telling you. And I'm telling you, that's why the theme of tonight is, listen, for some of you, this is a time, see, all of this that I'm going through, this history here, see, that's lessons to be learned. Someone had to die for you to learn this lesson. But sadly, some people are going to watch this whole broadcast tonight and still make dumb decisions. But I'm telling you right now, in this season that we're in right now, if you consciously make a dumb decision, one without counsel, one without talking to people who are wiser than you, and instead of just also getting counsel from people who are ignorant, you're going to end up dead. I'm telling you, a lot of our people are going to end up dead. And I'm not, you being an alarm list. Absolutely. I'm being an alarm list tonight. Absolutely. I sure am. Because the next story I'm going to show later on, some people did turn up dead. Why? Because of bad decisions. There's too many of our people that are making some very bad decisions, and you're going to end up either dead or broke or sick or all the above. So you better take heed to what's being said. Do you understand what I'm saying? And take heed of these warnings. That's why I'm willing to go through, okay, we're going to talk about Jonestown. I love to talk. Let's talk all about it. Let's do a full breakdown. Let's look at step by step how they got to that point. Because, see, a lot of people will look at these people that died in Jonestown and look at them, oh, they were just a bunch of sheep. They were a bunch of stupid, ignorant people. They ain't start off like that. These people, a lot of these people were smart. They were bright. They were also, there was some desperation there too. You understand what I'm saying? But they didn't start off as dummies. Some of these people were bankers. Some of these people had their own businesses. These were smart people. But it was because of the right things were said at the right time, it got them in a wrong place. And I'm telling you, you better take heed to this stuff here. All right. All right, so now I want to play for you. I played that. I played the radio. Okay, now I'm going to play this clip. Now, this clip, I'm giving you a heads up right now. It might be a little disturbing for some of y'all. All right, ain't nothing too crazy in this. But I do want you to hear this clip. This is the last speech he gave before it was lights out permanently for those people. And I'm going to share with you, I got some pictures to show you that they're not disturbing at all, but there's a few slides I wanted to show y'all just to emphasize a couple of things. Now, this is the night of them pulling the plug on each other. All right. So I want you to listen to it. All right, let's go.
The world, the kingdom suffereth violence, and the violence shall take it by force. If we can't live in peace, then let's die in peace.
We're all ready to go. If you tell us we have to give our lives now, we're ready. I'm pretty sure all the rest of brothers are with me.
For months I've tried to keep this thing from happening.
You're going to help yourself or you'll get no help. There's only one hope of glory. That's within you. Nobody's going to come out of the sky. There's no heaven up there. You have to make heaven down here.
But only at first. Living, you're looking at death. Living is much, much more difficult. Raising up every morning and not knowing what's going to be the night's bringing. It's much more difficult. It's much more difficult. Please, for God's sake, let's get on with it. We've lived as no other people have lived and loved. We've had as much of this world as you're going to get. Let's just be done with it. Let's be done with the agony of it. It's harder to have to watch you every day die slowly, and from the time you're a child to the time you get gray, you're dying. Dishonest, and I'm sure that they'll pay for it. They'll pay for it. This is a revolutionary suicide. This is not a self-destructive suicide. So they'll pay for this. They brought this upon us, and they'll pay for that. I leave that destiny to them. I want to go. I want to see you go, though. They can take me and do with me whatever they want to do. I want to see you go. I don't want to see you go through this hell no more. No more, no more, no more. We're trying. If everybody will relax. The best thing you do to relax, and you have no problem. You'll have no problem with the thing if you just relax. The children here. They get there and they come. Calm, let's get calm, let's get calm. To us, we had nothing we could do. We can't separate ourselves from our own people.
All right, I'll stop it. Because I want y'all to hear just enough there. It's a few more minutes to go, but I want to stop it right there. What you were hearing was them as they were taking the poison. And you heard sound like an older black man. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. So if we got to go, then we got to die. If we going to die, we going to do it. I'll just do it. Right. And then later on, you heard this child. And then if you continue to listen to it, you'll hear little children screaming and hollering as they're being administered this poison. See, he had to work their way through. See, what you got to understand, family, all of this was an experiment to see just what would be the absolute breaking point to get black folks to kill themselves. Because that's not something that typically, suicide is a thing amongst black people. Let's be clear with that. But your people, our people, let me remind you of some things that maybe some of y'all are forgotten now. You may have come out of a situation where your home was very messed up. All right. That may be true for some of y'all. But I'm saying if you go back far enough, that was not part of your culture. That was not part of your culture. Our culture, we were very supportive. We were very loving. When you go back, and when it comes to all of these psychological issues that would drive someone to end their lives, that was not something that we typically would do. You didn't start hearing about suicides amongst our people until slavery came into the picture. And when slavery came into the picture, when they took your ancestors and put them on those ships and they realized what was going on, they said, they were driven to a point. So what your government had to do is we got to get these Negroes back to, we got to remember that. How do we get them psychologically to that point where they're willing to do it themselves, where they're willing to jump off the ship themselves? And that's when they got this man in play. That's where they got Jim Jones in the picture here. And he needed assistance with that. He needed some assistance. And he got some assistance from the pharmaceutical companies. We talked a little bit about this. I'll get to that slide in a moment. You see this here? Now, without going into too much detail here, these are some of the drugs that were administered to the people. Not talking about suicide now. I'm not talking about the suicide drugs. I ain't talking about that. These are drugs that were given to the people of Jonestown on a daily basis. All the members, everybody was there, had to take their share of these pharmaceuticals every day. And you're looking at one of them right now. This particular one here, when it comes to these medical terminologies, I'm not good at it at all, but we're going to try it tonight. This is phenobarbital. Hope I'm saying that right. Anyway, so it's tiny here, but I'll read it for you. Okay. Let's see. It says the barbiturates are non-selective central nervous system depressants that are primarily used as sedative hypnotics. In subhypnotic doses, they are also used as anti-convulsants. Anyway, and then it goes on down here. It's the other part here. It says barbiturates are capable of producing all levels of CNS mood alteration from excitation to mild sedation, hypnosis, and deep coma. Overdosage can produce death. In high enough therapeutic doses, they said it can induce anesthesia. So this is one of the drugs that they were getting this in mass. When you read about what went down there, the details of this, they were taking this stuff in mass. You sit back and the first thing you wonder is, well, dang, how did they get all these drugs like this? I mean, it was stacks of them. I couldn't find all the pictures. There were other pictures out here. They were getting stacks of this, like in this case here, you see in the bottom right-hand corner, Eli Lilly must have been shipping those things down there. Cause it ain't like you just walked in the store. You don't get people you don't just buy this all across the counter like this. Nah, this stuff they were getting this from the companies. So this was a full, all press, all hands on deck experimentation on how we can psychologically get black folks to the point where they will off themselves. And some did. Notice I said some. Some did, because you may have thought that this story with Jonestown, you may have thought all of these people committed suicide. They did not. Oh, no, they didn't. Because when you read the police report in Guyana, guess what they found? Most of the people were face down on the ground. Most of the people were face down on the ground, and they had a single or more bullet shot in their bodies. So if you commit suicide, how everybody gonna be on their face, on their facing on the ground and got a bullet shot on their back? How that happen? They just shoot. That sound like Clinton's work. Hold on for just a moment. That sound like that sound like the work of Clinton's. The people that end up dead messing around with the Clintons. When suicide, the man strung himself and got his hands all bound up in the back, and they're gonna call it suicide. That's what it sounds like. Nah, a lot of these people, when you read the reports, a lot of these people did not commit suicide. And when you continue to read, they did a quick cleanup on this. It was like a 9/11 cleanup. Because once the world start hearing about this, all of a sudden now, governments and stuff coming down, they're like, acting like, oh, what happened here? What happened here? They had already boxed those people up and already had them on planes before they even got down there. This is all record, family. This ain't me making this up. This is all record. This is all record. But your government, the United States government, this is what they were about. And they were doing a part 2 not too far from there in Guyana as well. And like I said, again, I did a whole video on talking about that. And this man was a Hebrew. He claimed to be a Hebrew Israelite. And he said that he was leading his people to the promised land. And then when you start reading more and more about this dude, he was ops all day. He was ops all day. This man murdered somebody, but yet he had access to fly in and out of the country. Nah, he should have been under the jail for what he did. It was him and somebody else. They murdered somebody. But he was still leading a congregation of Hebrews and saying, we're going to go down here or whatever, because the CIA was on. And once the word got out about what went down in Jonestown, then guess what happened? They said, we got to wrap this up. What we had planned, the Jonestown part 2, we got to wrap this up. We can't do it anymore. And around that same time, there was also what was coming out. How many of y'all have heard of the ministry World Vision? There's World Vision. There's a few other ministries those out here where it came out that one of the things they were doing, and they have been doing this for years, is that World Vision was used as moving children. They weren't just, how World Vision, how they, back in the day, for those of you who are old enough, how World Vision, they were always about the children. It's always about children in Africa. It's always about the dark-skinned children. And we got to help these children and all this stuff. But what was happening was they were messing around with children. It was a whole children trade thing they were doing. For years, they were doing this stuff. And how they were working hand-to-hand with the government. So I'm just letting you know, again, I'm broadcasting simultaneously on BondTube. So if they want to act up, the conversation ain't going to stop. We're going to continue right on with this. All right. But for years, you can look this up. World Vision. There was a few other ministries as well that was working side by side with this government and moving children from one country to another, to another, to another, to another. Before Pizzagate, you had that going. That was going on with black children. And you want me to pledge allegiance to the flag, you better get your behind up out of my face with that. So family, this is why we have to ask questions. When you're in something, and the way that you can get easily sucked in is when someone has to tell you who you are. See, I'm not in the business here to tell you who you are. Let's be very clear on this platform here tonight. I'm not in the business on defining and telling you who you are. I will give you history. I will tell you to start from your household and work your way back. I've always said that, and I will continue to say that. And I said, you go where your history leads you. Don't depend on me to tell you your history, because I don't know you. Do you understand what I'm saying? But I can look at my history and say, when I go back, I can see these things. And then when I can look at my other people, I can say, oh, we're connected to this. I can go that way, but I can't speak for everybody. You understand what I'm saying? I can't speak for everybody, and I won't do that. But if you are part of something that in order for you to understand and get definition on who you are, you have to watch a documentary or watch someone's documentary, you already lost. Because what that means is someone has to define who you are. Your definition starts in your house. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because as long as your definition begins in your house, no man can control you. You'll never get sucked up in this mess. But when you allow people, oh, you got to watch this documentary. Oh, this is about to drop, and we're going to tell you now some more of the history here. If you ain't willing to do your own homework, to check and double check and redouble check and make sure that what's being presented to you is legit, then that means to that degree, that person is leading and guiding and directing you where they want you to go. I'm just saying. It starts right in your house. Anyway, let me get back to this slide here, and then I got a couple more, and then I think that's it. Case in point, well, it's a very interesting picture. You got Jim Jones. You got the Fruit of Islam. Yeah, what they doing there? Protecting Jim Jones. Never heard them talk about this one. Very interesting picture there. Very, very interesting picture. Anyway, let's continue on here. And again, that just serves as a reminder. What do you see? I want this image to be burning your mind. What do you see in this picture? Mostly middle to older black women and some men spotted in there. Speckled some white folks up in there. Oh, yeah, there was white people in there too. But by and large, it was mostly middle to older black folks that were caught up in this mess. And the games that are being played right now, family, it's targeting the same demographic, the very same demographic today. These people believed in this man to the point where they were willing to kill themselves. And you can be listening to this tonight, family. And I know for most people, you may say to yourself, hey, listen, I would never get to that point. But I'm going to tell you right now, there, sadly and unfortunately, as I live this life and I listen to some of the people out here, you ain't too far off. You may not be drinking Kool-Aid, but you're doing everything else. And one of the clips in this video, they talked about how the lady was saying how they were afraid to question anything. When you are part of something and you feel intimidated or you feel scared to question the narrative that you're part of, that's a cult. When I started looking and start, posting different questions about the Bible and different things like that, I tell you, there were people who were losing their minds over that. If you're in truth is never intimidated. Truth be sitting up looking at you like, yeah, and what else you want to ask me? I'm here. Give me more questions. Come on, let's go. Give me more questions. Truth ain't got to do all that. But I listen to what's out here. And I see the people that are being targeted. And once again, it's the same group of people. going after like our middle age, around that, I would say 35 on up. 35 on up. And this is the same tactic they used in Africa, where they went after the elders. You go after, this is why the continent of Africa is seen as one of the youngest continents in the world. Why? Because they're the same tactic. We're going to go after all the older people first. And that's exactly what they're doing here. And they've been doing that. It's really sad. I mean, when you go through this story and you start looking at the different lives and stuff like that, and you hear all the different testimonies of the people that were, you know, these families and stuff that were lost. I mean, you got husbands that were like, man, you know, she just picked up the kids and gone. She just jetted. She was gone, you know. And, you know, I listened to some of our people even now, you know, today. You know, I did a post actually on the community page here, and then I'll get to the last story here in just a moment here. Hold on. Let me see if I had another thing here. No. Okay. Let me pull this up here. It's right here. All right. Let me pull this up here. All right, here we go. So I said, guess who else is moving to or moved to the promised land? Because I got there are numbers of people out here now that are teaching and telling you that you got to move to the promised land, and that Central and South Africa is the promised land, and you need to get out and you need to go. And some of these same folks don't own a blade of grass in Africa, but they're telling you that you need to get up, you need to leave your stuff, and you need to flee, and you need to go to the continent. But guess who else is going to who's already there waiting for you in the quote unquote promised land? BioNTech. Okay. Pfizer. And I would encourage you, read the article, you know, go look for the article there. Yeah. BioNTech starts building an mRNA vaccine manufacturing facility in Africa. They're waiting for you in the promised land. Are you going to go? All right, let's read it, okay? This is what I wrote. I said, notice how your YouTube profits left that out. This is one of the same companies that is responsible for a great number of things. You know, I can't say it here on this platform, but you know what I'm talking about, that we have discussed on this platform, especially towards black folks. We did several videos on that, on how these pharmaceutical companies have continuously gone through the continent of Africa and experiment after experiment after experiment after experiment on these people. You want to know why a lot of people on the continent are sick? It's because of the years and years and years of experimentation they have done on that continent. Now, let me be clear here. Not everybody on the continent is sick. Okay. So I'm not trying to go there with that. Okay. You got a lot of thriving places on the continent, but there's also a great amount of sickness that would not otherwise be there had it not been for these wicked people coming there in the first place. I told you that video that I did, a short video, you know, these people talking about the white people, they were getting on talking about how they don't bathe and they don't like bathing. And that's, you know, a washcloth. That's what poor people do and all this other stuff. These are the same people that will tell you how stinking dirty your people were. I did another video where we talked about how the Jewish people who owned a lot of these soap companies. Oh yeah, we're going to do the research here. A lot of these soap companies that are in existence to this day, they go all the way back then. And in many of these soap companies were owned by Jewish people. We looked at the advertisements. The advertisers, a lot of them were Jewish. And in many of their ads, I showed you ad after ad after ad after ad where they were showing black folks before and then afterwards we were light skinned because we used their soap. And this is what they were putting out, family. This is what they were doing. They did that. That's facts. That's all historical truth. When you look at who were the advertisers, I pulled that up. These were the advertisers of these companies. Who owned the companies? These are the CEOs of these companies. These are the founding families of these companies. We went through all of that. And they wanted to put in your mind that you were some dirty, filthy people. And now today they want to come out, and now they just coming on to the side. Yeah, I don't do all that stuff. That's for the poor people. No, you are a clean people. I listen to my mother a lot of times. She tell me stories how my grandmother, she used to clean these houses of these people. And then after she done spent all day having these people calling her by her first name. Now, this is an elder. Talking about Odell, that was my grandmother's name. Odell, calling her when her own children didn't call her by it, you get slapped if you dare address your parents by their first name. Y'all's old enough, y'all remember that. But these folks, they will do that. And then after she finished cleaning that up, then she would go home and clean that up too. We were some clean people. Somewhere down the line, we lost that. We lost, some of that's been lost. Some of that's been lost. But don't ever forget your history. But anyway, I don't know how I got off on that. All right, I said all of these companies have a long history of testing out their products in places throughout Africa and other places where darker races live. Africa has officially swung its doors wide open to make it even more convenient. And yes, if you look this article up, and particularly here on YouTube, you have people in government in Africa. Now, we could say, oh, government is compromised or whatever. But what they were saying was that they were excited of the fact that these companies are like BioNTech because they can take advantage of the tech people who are trained in tech and biotech. They can take advantage of the resources that are on the continent. Because their biggest gripe was, I'm talking about people in Africa, I'm talking about the government now, was that these Europeans were coming into places like Africa, and the Europeans were bringing their people from Europe to Africa. And so what was supposed to be some grand deal that they made is that they said, okay, if you're going to build your companies here, then you got to hire our people. And the people are like, okay, we'll do that. Okay, we ain't got no problem because the end result is still going to be the end result. You know what I mean? It's still going to be the end result. And so anyway, so that's that. I said, so for those who are out here preaching their God spell to our people, telling them to flee to the promised land in Africa, here are some questions I want you to think about. You ain't got to answer them in the chat. I want you to think about them on your own. What is your specific plan to flush these companies out? Number 2, what specific blueprint are you bringing with you to teach Africans to fight against such actions? Number 3, how long have you been over there? And what tangible progress can you demonstrate showing real pushback against Western occupation? So in other words, if you ain't demonstrating it here in America, what makes you think all of a sudden you're going to become He-Man over there? It don't work that way. You got to build on something. You got to come with a toolkit. Don't come with your Bible because they already got the Bible over there. The Bible ain't enough for them. They want to see some tangible stuff. And I said, and before I continue, showing us videos of how you were able to buy some land and to get along with the locals sound exactly how it sounds. A simple relocation. There's nothing miraculous about that. Meanwhile, mining, drilling, medical testing continues to happen on the side of town where you don't live. So don't be presenting us all these videos. Again, if you want to go to places like Africa, Ireland, wherever you want to go, fine, go there, live your best life. Nobody's telling you don't go. Okay, so let me be very clear with that. I am not telling people don't go to the continent. What I am saying is use your brain, ask questions, because I'm gonna tell you, there's example after example after example I can give you of people who went over there, had expectations that were off, and they paid dearly for it. Remember, getting back to our point here, we're living in a time right now when you make poor decisions, you're going to end up in a very bad place. I got some people that lost thousands of dollars doing this because they were going there because they listened to some preacher or some moray tell them by going over here, you're fulfilling all the biblical, all this other stuff. And meanwhile, they sitting, they rusted behind right over here in the United States. Or if they're over there, they ain't own not a doggone thing over there. Someone left? I think someone left a comment or something recently. They were saying the power issue that's going on in South Africa right now, or many places in South Africa, or in Africa, period. And you don't necessarily need power per se, depending on how you just got to, when you go into a situation like that, you got to be prepared. And you got folks that go over there that don't think that way. You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't, just because they don't have power, it don't mean that, they living beneath, they're in the Stone Ages and all this stuff. No, it's a necessity in this society. If you're going to be, now, if you're living off grid, you good. But a lot of people don't. They are off grid. Look, you don't pay that light bill. You could be off grid right here in the United States. You be off grid real quick. Some of y'all be dreaming about being off grid. Okay, don't pay that bill. You be off grid real quick. Okay. So you ain't got to go over there to figure that, to live that. You can experience that right over here. Anyway, let's go on here. Now, I said, nobody on this end is telling you to stay away from Africa. If you have the resources to do so, please do it, in caps. But if none of the few questions I just posted here haven't even passed through your mind, you are simply relying on an interpretation of the Bible. Reality will be waiting to smack you like a tongue of bricks. Tonight, we're going to talk. Okay, now I talked about what we're going to be talking about tonight. So this family. So there's a lot of these little simple questions when I ask certain people that want to make these big jumps like this. When I'm asking them just for the basics thing, it's like, I never thought of that. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. You ready to give up everything? You never thought of this stuff? You never thought of any of this stuff? You just gone because I was listening to someone on YouTube and they were saying we got to flee, and I'm just going. My husband, he don't agree, but he's reluctantly going and all this other stuff. And listen, I'm just going to go. We're just going to do it, and that's it. Because if he ain't going, doggone it, I'm going to go. You don't want to be in that place. I remember a while back I had someone email and ask, hey, do you do weddings? I said, I would consider it. And they said, well, yeah, because, and I said, well, they said, because, what was it? I think I asked them, I said, well, what are the parents? I said, now, what did I don't know if it was the bride or groom. I can't remember. They were saying, yeah, because the parents, they're not really for it. And I said, oh, really? What were the concerns of the parents? And I ain't hear nothing since. Because see, what ain't gonna happen here, at least on this end here, I ain't gonna be just going along just to go along. I don't care. Well, my parents, they not in the truth. See, they ain't see things like this. But don't write your parents off, because your parents ain't dummies, okay? Some of them may be crazy. Some of them may do some crazy stuff or whatever. But even I've learned over the years that you got some parents that can be stone alcoholics, but when it comes to their children, they'll sober up real quick and tell you the truth. Do you understand what I'm saying? That may not be in all situations, but when it comes to stuff like that, like marriage, I ain't gonna step over with the wishes of the parents. I ain't gonna do that, especially if they got some general concerns. My point is this, why am I bringing this up? It's because we have to learn to recognize and love wisdom. Do you understand what I'm saying? A lot of our people don't recognize wisdom. You just think that it's someone against you. That it may not be the case. It might be some real wisdom that they're trying to drop on you. You just you just too hard-headed to accept it. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's why I say, you want to know who you are? Start in your house. Don't be going on no documentaries and then you want to paint this whole Build-A-Bear image of yourself. Start in your house. The wisdom and stuff that you need a lot of times, it usually can come, a lot of it can come right from your own house. And I understand there's some exceptions out there. I get that and I understand that. But I tell people, I said, listen, don't, you You still love your parents, the best that you can. You know what I'm saying? Now, if it's some abuse stuff or some other crazy stuff, that's something totally different. But don't write your parents off simply because of the fact they ain't in no truth. They may not be in your truth, but they will tell you the truth. Do you understand what I'm saying? So anyway, let me go to this last story here. So yeah, so again, if someone is telling you out here that you need to flee and you need to go to their land, you need to go to their plot, you need to move to them because, God is with them or the Most High is with them. He ain't nowhere else in the world, but he's with them. If you better run, you better run. Like they say, you better run faster than the devil. Don't play with these folks. I'm telling you, you get caught up in some mess. I'm telling you, do not. If you want to move, you want to relocate, do that because that's something you want to do, and do it because you did your own research. You've investigated. You spent time to talk to people on the ground to get all the information that you can get. You thought about it. You prayed about it. You consulted with others that are wiser than you. And after all of that, especially if you're married, you're doing it together. If your husband or your wife ain't with it, then chances are you need to sat your behind all the way down. Get you a seat and sit down. That's what you need to do. So anyway, let me show you with this last story here. This goes right along without, and someone, I think, Wanea, you brought this up, but I already had this up too. Thank you. Y'all heard this story about the 4 Americans in Mexico that got kidnapped. And I remember I saw the video on YouTube and I was like, are they black folk? I'm always looking for that. Because I saw her braids, right? I saw her braids and I was like, because it looked like the video was kind of blurry, right? So it looked like a darker skinned woman and it looked like blonde braids. And I was like, well, I think they might be black folk. Well, anyway, yeah, they were. So anyway, for those of you who haven't heard about this story, in short, this lady here that you see on the screen, she was going down to Mexico. At least that's what the story is for now. All right. That's what the story is for now. We don't, it could be a lot more to this story. We don't know. I certainly don't. Okay. All I can go by is what these people are putting in the news. But what we understand is that her, along with 3 other men, drove from I believe it was South Carolina, Florence, South Carolina, went down to Mexico. They didn't just go to Mexico, any part of Mexico. They drove down to Mexico to the place, an area that is known for cartels. I mean, why? I mean, and you didn't just drive into Mexico. You drove in there with your American tags on your car. You just asking for something. You just saying you will pick me. You just saying pick me. Just come on, just go on and get me. I mean, it's stuff like that. Now here's the thing. When you get into the story, there were 2 people in this story that was warning this young lady here, don't go. 2 people. It was her mother. She warned her, said, I told her I don't feel right about this. You shouldn't go. And she said, oh, mama, it'll be okay. I'll be okay. The second person that warned her, I believe, is the one of them that I believe he died. I don't have that story here, but yeah, there was another person that went with her, died. And what was she going down there for? It's funny how they were reporting it. They were saying she was going down there to get some medicine. I was like, okay, I'm aware of people going down to Mexico and getting medical procedures. Okay, what was the procedure? Then it came out late. It's funny how this stuff comes out in waves. They say, oh yeah, she was going down there to get a tummy tuck. So she was driving. They drove all the way down here. And one of the men that died was actually a father. It's really a lot of weird stuff with this. There's some weird stuff with this story because the wife of the one that died, I don't know which one it was, The wife of the one that died. This is a very racist article, by the way. I'll talk about that in a moment. The wife of the one that died, she said, I didn't even know he was down there. Like, well, wait, hold on. Wait a minute. That's your wife. What kind of arrangement y'all got? Your husband drove all the way down to Mexico. You didn't know? Anyway, so, I mean, it's like I said again, we may never know all the angles of this, right? We may never know all the angles. But my point is this. She went down there after two people close to her warned her not to go. And ended up where two people died. It was a tummy tuck. My wife said, was it a BBL or a tummy tuck? Right now they're saying it's a tummy tuck. It may have been a BBL. It could have been both. I don't know. Like I said again, what I'm hearing is someone says a butt lift. I don't know. I'm not going to do a poll on that tonight, okay? I'm not going to do a poll. But I heard tummy tuck. Yeah, it's right here. This is where it is, right here. It says for a cosmetic tummy tuck. That's what it says here. But I also heard the butt lifts. I don't know. I'm just going by what these wicked people, what they're putting out, what they're reporting. And two people died that didn't have to die. Because, see, people want to focus on, these Mexicans, they just kind of racist. First of all, get off of that, first of all. Yes, there's some racist Mexicans down there. I get it, and I understand that. Trust me. They say if you live in that area, people will tell you, people get kidnapped all the time in that area. That's like nothing. They be kidnapping whomever. I was a little surprised that they kidnap black folks because, typically when they kidnap folks, especially in that area, they're usually white folks because they feel like they can get more money from them. I'm just saying. So, but when I heard this, I was like, oh, this is something. And then, so they're saying that, they believe it's a case of misidentity. Anyway, the report is that there was a firefight between two cartels and somehow they were caught in the middle and I don't see how you can, these are Negroes, these are black folks. I mean, how you going to think that they were part of I don't know. That's what I'm saying. The way they're throwing different things out in the media, I really don't know all the details. The only things I know that we can't say happened was that the mother, she warned them. And also it was one of the men that warned, that went down there. Now this article, this is just a side note here. Oh yeah, Juanea said the two men that died, they were brothers. I didn't know that. Now this is I'm just pointing this out. This is just a side note. Just show you how racist the media is and the British, the British, man, the British press. I mean, they have really, ever since what's her face became married Harry, man, they have really turned up their racism. But anyway, the way they covering this story, this is in the Daily Mail. They said 4 Americans in Mexico kidnapping had lengthy rap sheets. Male survivor had solid crack cocaine outside school. One of the men shot dead was busted for drug manufacture, and woman was indicted after daughter tested positive for antiphemines or whatever, however you say it. Man, when you read this article, they went all the way back to 2016. I mean, and then this dude here, it was something years ago these people did. I'm like, I've never seen them do that with white folks. I mean, what that got to do with what they went down there for? But again, I don't know. Maybe it did have something to do with drugs. But I'm just saying, I've never seen them go this far back to try to draw some kind of connection to that. That's pretty far back for something that wasn't related, unless it's about to drop that they were about some drugs. We don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to sit up here and act like I was down there on the ground, but I'm just telling you. But what I am saying is that she was warned. That's the part I want y'all to focus on, is the fact that she was warned twice. Don't go. And family, in this day and age right now, you're going to need to start listening to that little thing that he's given at least some of us, and that is intuition. You're going to have to start listening to that inner voice. Okay? I know some of y'all is like, well, I got to find a scripture to make sure that this. If it's sometimes you ain't gonna have time for that. Sometimes you're gonna just need to know, you know what, I just don't feel right about this. You know, there's some people I could just see, I say, you know, I don't have nothing to do with them. It's just something about them. I just don't want to have nothing to do with them. I don't have nothing to do. I don't want to hear nothing they got to say. It's just something about, they could be a nice and pleasant person, but there's just something about this individual I don't have nothing to do with. And then and as long as I stick to that, I've been safe. But sometimes I'll doubt myself and I'll say, you know what, maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe I'm just being it. But over the years, I thank the Most High. She ain't in here right now, but she's here. My wife. Sometimes, like, I'll come across somebody and she'll already be like, she already be growling. And I just that's all I need to know. And I say, okay, I'm going to leave him alone. I'm going to leave him alone. I ain't going to go any further with it. And she'll say, you know, it's just something about that. I just don't, you better leave him alone. Don't mess with him, Dwayne. Don't mess with them, you know, whatever. I don't push back. I've learned years ago when she said, if she notices something, I'm like, okay, all right, I ain't gonna go past that. Because most of the time, the overwhelming times that she's said that and she noticed something, she's usually right. So what I'm saying is, in this time that we're in right now, as I'm closing this out, you're gonna have to learn to be led by His Spirit. See, you ain't gonna get that from no documentary. You want to argue about DNA? You want to argue about who was Hebrew and who won? You do that. In the meantime, I want to know, who am I supposed to be with versus who I'm not supposed to be with. And there's going to be, and that's what we talked about this past Friday. I said, you know, truth is a lonely walk. It's a lonely walk, family. It's a lonely walk. It really is. You want to walk in the truth? Be prepared to be alone a whole lot of times. And alone means quiet. You think it's, oh, we got this whole big crowd, we all gonna be rolling together. You can't, it's hard to be quiet in a crowd because someone always running their mouth. Someone always gonna be running their mouth in the crowd. That's why I tell people, they say, you know, well, don't you think it's a good idea if a group of us get together and we go buy some, oh no, get out of my face, get out of my face, get out of my face. No, I'll take care of my family. We be good. If you got some land over there, let me know. Maybe we can work something out in the middle or whatever, but no, we good. No. No, not at all. Because I see where that, I love you. I love you from a distance for a lot of our people. There's some people I'm like, okay, you can come in a little bit. You know what I mean? But for a lot of our folks, especially, there's nothing wrong in saying that. There's nothing wrong with saying, I'm going to love you, but I'm going to love you from a distance. You're going to see me wave. If your house is on fire, I'm going to yell, hey, you need some help? I ain't running. Don't think I'm going to be running with a hose if I see your house on fire, because you might be setting me up. You know what I'm saying? You might be setting me up. I'm telling you, live life long enough and you know, you may be like, oh, that's cruel, man. How can you say that? Live life long enough and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Seriously. So family, I went through tonight some of this history here, you know, because I understand for some of y'all, you already know this. You knew the history, you know, the story about Jim Jones and all of that. But, you know, but there are many of our people who don't. And the proof of that is that you see many of our people that are still falling into some of these same schemes and tactics that people like Jim Jones have used. All right. Don't get so caught up in the whole fact, because I gave you a little bit about the government involvement and all that. Notice I didn't spend a whole lot of time with that, because a lot of our people, we love those kind of conspiracy stories and spending a lot of time in that space. I'm trying to say, yes, that was a part of it, but I'm trying to get you to focus on this. Are you a person that's asking questions? Are you in a space where if you do ask too many questions, they will boot you out, or they will call you names, or they'll say this? Are you in that kind of space? Are you in a place where people are asking great commitments out of you, where to the point where, you know, it's going to break up your family, or you're going to, you know, you got to relocate and all this other stuff? Are you in that right now? Now, you may not be part of that, but I'm telling you right now, there are a lot of our people who are in that place. And again, for our sisters out here, especially you, all right? Like I said, the brothers don't get, we ain't scot clean on this either, but I want to say especially to your sisters out here that are listening to the sound of my voice, I just gave you some historical examples to show you exactly who is always targeted in these deceptions, and it's you. If you 35 and up, you are the target with these different movements. You are. Be it Jim Jones, be it some weird church, or just a church period, be it the Hebrew world, you are the target. And if you don't think for one moment some of these assemblies ain't ran by Freemasons or people who are tied to the agency, you already sleep. Because I'm telling you right now, the way I see some of these people move, it's too agency. It's too much of an agent to me to be like, you know what, I ain't gonna. And so I ain't gonna say nothing. I ain't gonna call nothing out. Sometimes I be finding stuff out. I said, man, I gotta look this stuff up, man. I'm finding, man, relative, they have parents that were in the intelligence space and all this. So if you just a little something for you. If you hear that someone's parents was part of the intelligence community, you better book. Now they may tell you, well, I wasn't part of that. That was my daddy. That was my mom. Let me give you an example as I close. Okay, I shared this before, but I'm gonna give you a real live example. This was maybe 3 years ago. Wow, time really flies. Let me give you, this is an example. We were first coming into the whole Hebrew space. This is some years ago. And there was a group of people, very nice people in the UK, and they needed help in setting up, like gatherings. I wasn't over in the UK, but I was saying, hey, maybe once a week we can get together on Zoom, or it was like Google Video or something like that. We can get together, and through those get-togethers, y'all can meet, y'all can connect with each other, right? Y'all can connect with each other, and then y'all do that thing. I'm not your bishop, I ain't your pastor, and I ain't your moray. I'm just using the platform that we have here to kind of bring y'all together, and then y'all go with it. I don't care where y'all go with that, but I'll help in trying to bring y'all together. This was in the UK. And it was this one individual that was a part of it. It was a female. And she was very needy, very, very needy. And was always like, just in some crazy, like, they're getting ready to kick me out of my apartment. And it was like all this, and I need help, and I need this and all this other stuff. It was always like some urgent thing that had to happen. People had to get together and help and all this stuff. It was always this stuff, right? So, and this person loved to talk. And so what do I do with people who love to talk? I listen, because as the more they talk, the more I learn. And this person said to me, oh, was it to me? Well, she told me part of the story. Then I got with someone else that told me the other story. Not only was this sister's father part of like the intelligence community with the UK, but he was also, there was some war that took place. It was between the Brits and it was a tribe or tribes in Africa. He was part of those. He was part of the military that military crew that crushed these African tribes. I think it was like in West Africa or something like that. I forgot the name of the battle. It was some kind of war, but he was part of this. And he was a Freemason. Not only was he a Freemason, he was like a 32 degree, 33 degree. He was something like that. High ranking, according to her. So I said, okay, let me file that. Because once she told me that, I was like, okay, that's all I need to know. So anyway, we're meeting, the group we're meeting on a regular basis. Everything's going fine and all of that. There was something you wanted to add? That I'm missing something? Yeah, it was like something in the Congo or something like that he did. It was very brutal. Like when the what now? Oh, I know that's right. Yeah. And so anyway, She so we're meeting on a week. I don't want to say weekly basis. It was like maybe once or twice a month. It was something like that. Then all of a sudden I started getting word from people. People started dropping out. They stopped like attending, and I started finding out like, Brother Dwayne, I was going to be a part of this, but I don't want to be a part of this. I just don't feel comfortable, and people started treating me weird. And I was finding out through different ones. It was like, okay, because I heard this about you and I heard that about you and all this stuff. And I was like, what? So me, I'm going to go to the source. So I went to her, right? And and so I'm talking to her, and come to find out, she was going around saying all these falsehoods and stuff about me, but saying, hey, listen, you ain't got to go to him anymore. You can come to me, that kind of thing, because he ain't over here, but I'm here, that kind of stuff, right? So in the meantime, the adults in the room, I'm talking about these people that was in this group, I didn't see, for me, here's the thing. If you're an adult, I'm not going to be coming with my gavel like, this is my group here, and don't you dare come in. No, y'all grown. If you can't see the devil in this, I take leave, because I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to be the one that's going to strong arm you to see the devil. So I told him, I said, you know what? I said, I'm finding out some things. I said, that aren't true. This woman is saying something. I said, they're not true at all. My phone number is never changed. You got my number. You got my email address. If you want to know anything, you can always call. I've always said that from the beginning. And I'll continue to say that. Right. And some people took me up on that. And once they found out, they was like, oh, snap. I didn't know. But she was telling me this and all this and whatever. And so I called her directly and I said, listen, I know what you're doing. And this is what's going to happen. You clearly want to take leadership over this. Okay, fine, take it. And she was, oh, no, I don't want to do that. I never want to do that. Please, sir. No, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Please. It's just going through all this. And my face was just as plain. I was like, no, we ain't going to do this. I already know. I got all the receipts. You take it. Goodbye. Hung up. Gone. That's it. And I left it alone. And I still left them to this day, left them all alone. I don't know where they are now. But my point is this individual came in and literally acted as an agent and broke that whole thing up. What could have been a wonderful experience for these people from all over the UK coming together, praying for each other, supporting one another, and being, a help for one another. This woman came in and broke that thing right up. I don't know what like I said, again, I can't speak for where they are now, but broke it all up. There's things that happen even in Threema. For those of you know, Threema is an app that we use to, to connect with some of y'all, and other people out here. We ain't out here preaching. I ain't giving you secret access to sermons and teachings and stuff. Ain't nobody doing, and y'all can, know that. I don't do that. I don't typically share any of my videos at all on Threema. I'll do a video for Threema specifically for them, but I don't say, y'all check out this short I uploaded. Nah, we got the sale. We got a sale, a Sombatry sale, and it's exclusively for the Threema people. I don't do any of that. If anything, we go and we're promoting other people and say, hey, check this person out and all that stuff. The whole point of it is getting people together, and to get people together because we recognize the time that we're in right now. Teaching our people, in the beginning, we had people, for folks who we spent a great deal of time, talking about the importance of having a go/prep bag, right? And if you didn't have the resources to get one, we bought it for you. We put the resources together and we made sure that everyone had a go prep bag, whoever needs one, right? So we did that. We were also having like classes teaching people like shortwave radio stuff. We were teaching people, canning, all kinds of stuff. And we still do that to some measure, right? All this is taking place. We divided people up by states at that time. And again, so everything was going fine. A lot of, people was all up in there in the house and all that stuff. And then here come the devils. Here come the devils coming in. And all of a sudden folks were just, again, the rumors, things are being spread. People on Threema know I ain't on no Threema every day saying I ain't have talking to these people. I treat these people, they're grown people, and I say, y'all figure it out. Here's the blueprint. You all need to make sure that you're thinking like, okay, if you need emergency water, who has the water? If you need emergency food, y'all need to get together and figure that out. If you need generators, who has generators in your state? All of this stuff. I said, here's the blueprint. Y'all figure it out. Gone. If you need support, we're here for you, but y'all figure that out. Some people did run with that and they built on it. Other people did not. But what we also saw were people that fell in that same demographic that I just showed you on the screen, that came in and was spreading all kinds of stuff and were having side meetings and trying to break stuff up. And they did, and caused all kinds of confusion. And it caused a huge mess. Again, acting as agents. Now, some of these people, they may not be on the payroll of agents. Sometimes that's just their spirit. That's just inside of them. Not everybody's a paid agent. You got some folks that are just agents of Satan. You understand what I'm saying? And that's just how they roll. That's how they get down. So what did we do? We had to cut things off. We had to cut things off immediately because we said this cancer ain't going any further. You ain't going to mess with the good people that are here that are trying to do stuff. And I'm telling you, black folks, listen to me when I'm saying to you. This is just a fact. If you, as a black man, as a black woman, if you're trying to build something for your people, the number one people that are going to be right there to try to destroy it are going to be people that look just like you. I ain't focused on the white people because I already know what they're about. I ain't focused on the Jewish people because I already know what they're about. But it's the ones that look like me are the number one people that will be right there to try to tear it down. And I know in your heart, it's hard to hear that. It's hard to believe that. It's hard to receive that. But I'm telling you right now, that's just facts. And you got to learn how to pursue, or rather push through and get past that. That's just facts. You got to get past that. That's just a statement of fact. I can't fix you. I ain't in the place. That's not me. That's not my responsibility to fix you. Some people just crazy. Some people will never get it. Some people are just immature. But the only people I have to have around me, and you should be the same way, are people who are going to be careful enough to make sure they make the right decisions, not jump into everything and just be led by emotion. Because in this hour that we're in right now, family, if you are making decisions that are based on emotion, I'm telling you, you already dead. You already dead. And there's going to be some folks, and we've already seen a wave of it just now with this whole you know what. There are good people out here that were scared to death of what this government was saying, and they went in and did exactly what this government. Now this same government is coming out and telling people, oh, we actually made a mistake. Actually, it did leak out of the lab. They're saying that now, aren't they? This is the same stuff we were telling people. And they went ahead and did it anyway. And now, every week, we get notification, emails from people who family members, they did it, drop it, just like that. And if you think this is just, it's only limited to those that took the you know what, it's also going to be dumb things like what these people did that went down to Mexico. It's going to be the same stuff. You got people right in your family telling you, don't do that. Don't go there. Don't go with that person. You need to leave them alone. And some people still like, well, I know more than you know. And next thing you know, thousands of dollars broke, sick, or even dead. And I'm telling you, I pray this will be a firm and stern warning to you. Take it very seriously, family. Take what I'm saying to you tonight very, very seriously. Take it very seriously because, again, there are many of our, because I'm telling you right now, and I'm going to keep on saying it, like what I started off in the beginning of this broadcast talking about that, the whole hidden history museum and all that, and what they ended up with. And then you got almost 2 mil plus that's lost just like that. That could have gone to anything. Because you got caught up into something. And the sad thing is you got people, some of these older people out here, they stay the main ones caught up in it. They'd be the main ones caught up in it. You thinking they're going to be out here telling you the truth and saying, hey, like me up here telling you, hey, think about this for a second. Don't do it. You know what I mean? But no, some of these same people, my age and older, be the main ones caught up in it. Sometimes I be listening to some of these people, and I swear up and down, I think I'm talking to some teenagers or something, and I'm like, man, well, hold up. Oh, you just using a picture when you was a teenager. When I look at your real picture, you older than me. You know what I'm saying? So this is real. You know what I'm saying? And so even for you younger people, listen, be a person that recognizes wisdom and chase after wisdom. Real wisdom. Tested wisdom. Do you understand what I'm saying? What I'm sharing with you tonight has been tested. I've been through this stuff. I understand these things. I ain't just saying this because I read it in a book or I saw it in a documentary. I've seen people make bad decisions. I made bad decisions, but I learned from them. There's too many Dusties out here that have made bad decisions, but yet they still have never learned, and they're going to continue to do it. Don't follow charisma. Don't follow charisma, family, because charisma will have you just in the dirt somewhere, 6 feet under. When you hear things, if you're going to make important decisions about your life, important decisions about your finances, you want to make sure, like I said again, when the Bible says that, that's true. In the multitude of counsel, there's safety. That's a fact straight across the board. Straight across the board. You make sure you get a multitude of counsel, and you make sure you take in consideration what that counsel is telling you. Don't don't let your counsel be people who never been through anything. You make sure that your counsel is made up of people who've been through and learn from it. Don't just go to old people, because a lot of these old people, they old, but they ain't wiser. They just old. Go to those people that you sure enough can say, you know what? This brother, this sister, they know what's up because they've been through. I've seen it. I'm telling you, you do that, you'll save yourself from a world of hurt. I was thinking about sowing some money into this or that or whatever. Okay, go ask somebody. No, it's okay. It's better, especially if it's a significant investment. Man, you want to make sure you ask somebody before you do that. Run it by somebody. Well, I'm too old. I ain't no child. I ain't going to ask nobody. Okay, then learn the hard way. It's just as simple as that. Because I know for me, I ain't chasing nobody. I'll tell you, hey, listen, you may not want to do that. I ain't listening to you. Okay, then you learn the hard way. It's just as simple as that. It's easy. Next. You understand? And I know this is something that has been, our people, it's been anemic when it comes to this. The wisdom is out there. You have elders out there that are wise and will give you the truth. You understand what I'm saying? And put it out on the line. But I'm going to tell you right now, we have to have discernment and know who to go to versus there's some people you can't go to. There's some people you can't. Because they will steer you wrong every time. And don't ever listen to anybody. And this is the last thing I'm going. Like I was saying tonight, you got folks out here that are trying to scare you into making decisions. You never do that. That's, if anything you can hear, anything I could share with y'all tonight, family, don't allow anybody to scare you into making a decision. I will give you some things that may be a little bit scary. Like on this platform, I'll tell you about certain things. I'm like, man, this is kind of crazy. But I would never tell you, well, you got to hurry up and make a decision. I'll never do that. Not here. Because I understand some of the decisions are going to have to be made for a lot of people. It's going to take a lot of wisdom on your part. Not someone on YouTube just telling you what to do. You're going to have to think this out for yourself. And you're going to have to be man and woman enough to stand behind your own decision. You understand? So we love you very much. I hope that was demonstrated tonight. We love you enough to tell you the truth. All right. So that's it. That's all I have for you tonight, family. Thank you so much for joining us. And like I said, again, this video, hopefully it'll be up here for a while here on YouTube. And I will definitely put it on the other platforms too. Okay. Love you very much. You guys take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care.